he asked a question about live streaming, and I was like, yeah, like we'll talk about it next week. And then I realized that I had Julian's schedule, and I was like, yo, Julian, you don't perhaps know much about live streaming. And he was like, I do. And I'm like, thank God, because that's what we're going to talk about today. And so I'm excited to dive in. So I know enough to be dangerous, but Julian has also been, this is his world. He's also been a part of some pretty large churches, and also works with some large churches on many different fronts as far as audio, video production, worship, websites, graphics, all that stuff. So he is well versed. He's also a great friend. We've been friends for quite a while now, and a very talented man. Him and his wife and family are amazing, and they're a blessing to my life. And we do a lot of work together and help each other out, and kind of run in the same direction and the same lanes, kind of serving in some of the same areas, but different as well. And so he'll probably be on this again in the future, just because he's got a lot to add and has been in and around the church world, on, like I said, many different aspects. From what you've been, like, worship pastor, worship leader, media, what else? Kind of give us a little intro to Julian.
Yeah. Well, quickly, I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at one of the largest churches in America. Actually, it's pretty wild. But and you would never think that it was out of New Mexico. So
Yeah.
grew up there, moved to Seattle in 2004 when I turned 18. So I turned 18, and 2 weeks later, packed up my bags and put it all in my car and drove to Seattle. And we kind of lived there for about 15, maybe 17 years. And while I was there, I started off as an intern at a little old church called Puyallup Foursquare Church, where Chad Veach was our youth pastor. And that's where all my connections kind of were built off of. So interned there, was doing worship, creative, all that kind of stuff. And then ended up going to Bible college in Dallas, Texas, at Christ for the Nations, and went there for a while. While we were there, me and my girlfriend at the time, we got engaged. So we took a year off, got married, went back to Dallas, finished school. And when we went back, I got my first full-time job at a church as a assisting youth pastor and worship leader at Valley Creek Church in Flower Mound, Texas. And I was there for a while and kind of just kept on moving forward. I loved worship, loved creative, all things creative, and just ended up being a worship pastor for a super long time, worshiping creative. And then my last stint was as a campus pastor at a church back in Washington, and I was a campus pastor there for a while at their main campus. And so once we stepped down, I started a business, Crackle.io. That's what we do now. And so I no longer am full-time vocational ministry, but I do consider myself a pastor still. And because I work with 30 churches now rather than one. So it's pretty wild. It's just a little bit different world for me. So I get to see the ins and outs of so many different places these days. And it's an exciting world. And I love helping churches just do better. A few years ago, we did this little campaign called Stop Bad Church Graphics. And it was one of the highlights of my life, because we were doing our very best to help churches stop sucking at what they do when it comes to graphic design. And even now, just our websites and everything. So passionate about helping churches do better and represent, the bride of Christ even better in any opportunity that we can. So that was brief where I'm at now. That's what I do full time, Crackle.io, and I love it. And it's been fun. And thank you, Chandler, for having me on here.
No, thanks for being on here as always. Yeah, thankful for you and for your relationship and your expertise. And so today we are going to talk about live streaming. We're going to try to tackle as much as we can. Obviously, this is a very complicated, I don't know about complicated, but it'd be a very detailed topic depending on your level of resources, gear, staffing, all of that stuff. So, we could probably cover this on many different angles, from like, all I have is an iPhone to, I've got a $250,000 budget and a team of 10, and I want to run it, I want to run it like Life Church does. It's it's all out there. But I'm gonna let Julian kind of go in and just kind of start wherever he wants to, and then we can ask some questions, ask some clarity. So if obviously if you guys are listening, if you have questions, write those down, throw those in the chat, and once he kind of gets through, we'll open it for Q&A, whether it's for this topic, for any topics that you guys are trying to decide. And so again, Lindsay, they're in Houston. Casey is there in Wichita Falls, Texas, which is just a short stint away from me. And then Caroline, she represents is with Pastor Mike, they're in Torrance, California. Great people. And so Julian, it's all you. Take it away. I got my notes open, ready to learn and ready to hear what you got to say.
Okay, so I think the first thing we want to do is just see where you guys are at now, just so I have a little bit of a landscape of where my brain should go. So if you can, Lindsay, where are you guys at? What do you have when it comes to this?
So we live stream every Sunday, our worship and message, and then we just kind of take off the worship part later on and post our message.
Okay, and then are you running it through your website or going through YouTube? How are you doing it?
We use Living as One, Resi. So we have our own church platform, and then we're sending it out to YouTube and Facebook.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Awesome. And then what about you, Casey?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We do also currently live stream our service. A little bit of background. We have been here now for about 2 years as kind of a church revitalization situation. Our church is a COVID church, meaning just like a lot of churches, they didn't have any kind of live stream format until COVID. They didn't know what they were doing. Threw a lot of money into a lot of equipment that honestly is subpar and not up to where we need to be. But it's still there, and there's an expectation for it now. We currently stream to Facebook and YouTube. However, we currently do have somebody that is in the chat. We have a team member that is on Facebook. They have a PDF. So there's somebody that is constantly engaging with our audience, which is mostly shut-ins. But as far as this is a great topic and area, because this is probably the one area where we're struggling with, and it's a place where we know we need to go. And my experience is more on the production side of things, video wise, not broadcast. So I have enough to kind of know where to go, but the proper steps in that process is not, we're just not there yet. We have 3 cameras set up. One is an old, I think a Canon Vixie, like it's a component out. Okay. So it's not even HDMI or SD. It's just old. And we're running a couple of PTZ cameras. So the quality is subpar to basically, long story short, to sum it up. And so we're just at this weird, awkward place right now where our production side of things, post, like what we create on the back end of things, like we have a nice little studio where we can make devotions and things like that. But our broadcast, what you see on a Sunday morning, there's just a vast difference between the two.
Yeah.
And so, but to say all that to say is we are running from Facebook to YouTube. We have somebody engaging on Facebook, and that's kind of where we're at currently.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And then what about you, Caroline?
Hello. I pulled in my expert.
Welcome. Hello, expert. Man, you look like Deion Sanders.
I feel like I should say bull junk right now. Bull junk. I'm Mike. So
nice to meet you, Mike.
I'm late.
Yeah, so I just was asking where are you guys at when it comes to live streaming for your church?
Yeah, so we stream our service at 9 o'clock on YouTube, and then also through the church online platform on our website. And then we rebroadcast that service right afterwards during our 10:45 service. And then make it on demand by noon on Monday.
Okay. And then and you feel pretty good about it, or where are you at with that? Are you Are you kind of like, we need to learn a lot more, we need to get better, or you're like, we're super solid?
I mean, I'll never be arrogant enough to say we're super solid. We can always learn a lot more. I think we functionally started right at COVID. I think Casey said the same thing. We were actually recording services, editing them, and then putting them up. Like, so we would record on Thursday. And so I think moving to streaming, I don't know that our philosophy changed a ton, except for we can't edit on the fly.
For sure.
So I think thinking about how does a live event need to be produced versus like a recorded event, I think is a whole different type of mindset that we're trying to grow in, so we can learn a lot there. And then obviously, everybody always wants better gear. So if we could get better gear, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, here's the thing, guys. Online streaming is a necessity. It's something that we definitely need to be a part of and have inside of our churches. And it looks like all of you guys are obviously headed in that direction or already doing it. But one of the things that I want to just stress above everything else is that it's truly a front door. This is something that we have to look at for our church as a front door. This is an opportunity for people who are skeptical, who don't really know about your church. They're going to look at they're going to look at your online presence and how are we presenting our front door to our customers. Now, I've walked up to front doors, and I'm not talking about churches right now. I've walked up to front doors where it felt inviting, and it was like, come on in, welcome home. We're so glad you're here. And I wanted to get into that house so fast because I knew that they would have great snacks. They would have all the drinks that I would need. They'd have great conversation. It was going to be a good time. There's also been doors that when we've gone to people's houses that it wasn't very inviting. It was very like, keep out. We don't want you here. You don't belong here. Just all these different opportunities of negativity that I was embracing in these moments. And so for me, I want to make sure that everything that we do, our front door is super presentable. And that goes from your website to the hosting, how we're talking. The communication that we do on our online presence is super important, and how accessible it is so important so that we can help people understand technology. Because the truth is, most people watching online, they're not going to have the most technological mind, right? They're going to be people who are like, hey, it's not working. It's lagging. It's slow. It sounds weird. The sound's really low. Most of the time, it's because they have a poor computer, poor connection to internet. We're doing our job, but they don't understand technical terms and how it works and what they need to be able to succeed in what they're doing. And so the language of the way that you are presenting your online presence is one of the most important things. Now, you can put on the best show in the world, but we need to make sure that we're building community across the board when it comes to that. And understanding the demographics. Who are the people that are staying home? Ask questions. When you're having those conversations and you're talking to the people online, you get to understand who they are, where they're at, where they're from, why they're home. One of the things that we always focused on was tell us where you're talking from, right? Or where you're watching from. What kept you home this week? We would love to invite you to come into our actual church door someday. We want to make sure that we create some type of language that is community built when we're bringing people in as much as possible when it comes to that, because we're building community, right? And whoever's on the other side, whoever's on the side of the computer that you are on, make sure that they understand the technical things. Okay, did you troubleshoot your internet? Did you put some headphones on? Like stuff like that helps them understand their computers. Because if they have a PC, I'm a Mac guy. Like, I'm always going to make fun of them just because I'm like, hey, you got a PC. That's probably why. Your speakers are terrible. My Mac is so loud. Like, we just have fun with them and create this community with them so that we can build relationship, but also just understand our demographic and who's actually watching online. Is anybody here for the first time? That's another one we want to make sure that we're asking. And then what we can do is we can send them a link to the first time guest card that we have for them online. And we're engaging them as much as possible. And I think a lot of times, especially those who created online after COVID, which is surprising. I'm actually shocked how many churches that's when they started. But we started it then, and then we just were like, okay, put it on there. Now we have to go. And they have no idea that, okay, now it's more than just presenting a service. Now it's building community and drawing those people in enough to where eventually they're going to come back. They're going to come into your doors. They're going to be a part of your services. And as much as I love the online community, the number one goal for me is, one, we can reach the people who aren't there for the week because they're deployed or they're on vacation and they want to, do everything that they can. But number two, I want to reach the people who, if they're coming to our front door for the first time, and we want to make sure that they come through all together. Now, digital strategy is a huge thing for what we do online. When I was at a church in Albuquerque, New Mexico, it was called Legacy, and we started online. And at first it was terrible. And we're a big church, like huge church, but we didn't have the right cameras. We had terrible quality. We didn't have the greatest internet. All of our infrastructure in the back was just outdated. And so, but we were just like, all right, let's just do it. And then once we figured out what we wanted to do, we realized, okay, all the technical stuff is great, but how are we going to engage our online people the most? And so it's funny, you watch Elevation and they do this really well. We actually did it before Elevation started doing this, and it's wild. I've watched them do it. I'm like, they do it better now, but they have taken what we were doing and they've expanded on that. And so what we did is we created a online pastor, right? And so we took time and we set up our infrastructure for our switchboard to be able to do two things at one time. So we had our online switchboard and we had our live production switchboard. And so our live production, or I'm saying our online switcher would have access to all the cameras. And so what we did is we had an online pastor who would stand on the side of the stage before we got started, and you can see the audience, you could see the worship team getting ready, and he'd be like, hey, welcome online. And he made connection and only talked to them personally, and only, he didn't make any suggestion that we're here live, anything like that. He just said, we're so glad you're here with us online. And he was talking directly to the people. He was looking at them in the camera. And as he was making this connection, we saw a huge uptick in the way people were responding to what we're doing. And then we just expanded on that. Then we started doing like pre-service stuff. We had our pre-service announcements. We didn't do videos. We did live announcements with our people online. And we would say, hey, we're so glad you're here online with us. Hey, this week at our church, this is what's happening. And they just go through all the different things and having conversation. It would be two people just having fun with each other and expanding on what's happening in our church, right? And so focusing our attention and putting everything that we have into our online presence and making it feel like they're actually here with us at church made the biggest difference in the world compared to just streaming our service and putting it up and putting it down. When we just streamed our service, our interaction was at an all-time low. Like maybe 3 people would post, or people, would be engaged, maybe put 1 like, it wasn't very much. But as soon as we made the switch to having online hosts and really pushing them forward in engaging with us and building community, we made the biggest difference in the world. And our online presence, I mean, hundreds of comments, going from 2 to 3 to hundreds of comments, because we're talking to them directly and we treated them like they were in the building. And so for us, that was the huge difference maker. Now, on the technical side, it makes it a little bit harder. It involves a lot more people. It involves more cameramen. It involves a host. It involves another switcher. It involves, a lot more. But if you can somehow figure out a way to engage your online people in that manner, you can do it. Whether that's a pre-recorded thing that you play for them. A lot of churches do that, where they pre-record something during the week and then they play it for the online service. And it's the exact same thing. And it feels like it's live, but it was pre-recorded, but they don't know the difference because they're online, right? And so building the community is like number 1 top priority for everything that we do when it comes to online presence. And then the online engagement, like that's the part where you're really going to grab people's attention. So I would suggest set up your infrastructure on your website within your everything that you're doing when it comes to first impressions, because there really should be an online presence for your first impressions. And if you don't have it already, man, let's create a digital something on your website where you can get them to fill out that they were there, ask questions, prayer requests, get them more involved in that way, because that community is going to be built. Everything you would do in service, I would make an opportunity somehow live with your online presence. So creating those links and having those landing pages for your giving, your online card, your prayer request, anything like that, your questions, maybe you can chat personally with somebody right now, stuff like that. I know there's lots of opportunity for that, and the people are hungry. They want to feel like they're connected and a part of something. And so focusing on that is so huge. And then when it comes to your cameras and gear, man, there's so many routes that you can do. I have a church who literally has a they're one of my clients and I feel bad for them. But they didn't have any budget at all because they're a church plant, zero budget, but they really wanted to do online. And so I gave them a few options. I said, here's what we can do. We can pre-record and I can set you up with an external source where you can upload the video and then it will go live on Sunday at the same time as your service, right? And so they love that option. But they really wanted it to be live. Like that was their biggest thing. We want to be live. We want to be live. And I'm like, okay, but I'm going to tell you, it's going to be low quality. Your sound is going to be rough. Your video is going to be rough because you don't have the infrastructure to really make it happen, but let's try it. So they purchased, I actually think I have one of those cameras on me. Yeah. They purchased this camera right here. It's a little Sony, right? But it's like one of the lowest end Sonys that you can buy, right? This is, I think this is a Sony A. Yeah, Sony A. And it's cheap. I have this camera strictly for podcasting. That's it. And that's its only purpose. And it's not full frame. It doesn't have great inputs. It doesn't have everything, but it can do the job for what you need sometimes. And as they purchased that camera and they set it up, I was like, okay, now you're going to actually have to spend some money. We need a lens. And so they purchased the biggest purchase of their church was the lens for their cheap little camera. But it made a huge difference. Even though the camera's not full frame, we were able to get super tight in on the shots. But at the same time, we were still dealing with white balance and we're dealing with this, and all the technical things that they were trying to deal with. So they did it for a couple of weeks. Sound was awful. Cameraman wasn't following. It was shaky, whatever they can do. So we came up with a new solution. I said, all right, now let's just pre-record your message in the studio, and then we're going to put it out and it's going to be live. And they've been doing it for 3 years now. Even though they can totally do live streaming, they just opted out to just pre-record and put it online as if it was live every single time. And it works great. Maybe one day they'll switch and they'll go back to trying live when they have the ability to and they have the actual funds to make it happen. But for now, they may do with what they have. So that's my biggest challenge to you. I think a lot of times we look at situations, and I mentioned, let's do live host and how can we get them involved more? And one of the things that I've realized is that if we can be just problem solvers and just try to figure it out, there's always going to be some solution to make it happen. If we give up, it never will happen. But if we continue to press forward, eventually you're going to figure out a solution because there are solutions for you out there. But yeah, so all that to say, come up with solutions, man. Like, don't give up. Don't think that, man, I really want this to happen, but I have no idea how, so we're just never going to do it. Just keep searching, keep looking for opportunities, keep doing your due diligence to figure it out. And there are cheap ways to make it happen. The other thing is your internet connection. Like, does everybody have good internet connection? Yeah, good. You don't, Chandler. I know you don't. Your internet sucks. Yeah. But if you don't, that's one of the things that we have to go, okay, what are we going to do to make this happen? And so we just started calling all of our connections in the internet world. And so we knew a guy at Comcast and we said, hey, how can we get fiber to our church? And he kind of laughed at us and he said, that's hilarious. And we're like, no, literally, we want to have fiber at our church. And so we figured it out. We got fiber. And then our next biggest ask was, okay, now we have a church that's 6 miles down the road. We would love to have fiber from our downtown campus to our South Hill campus, 6 miles down the road. And he laughs at us again. But we figured something out. We realized that there was a connection point not too far away that goes directly to that campus. And we had to spend a lot of money, but we found a solution. And so if you don't have good internet, man, the right solution is to what? Probably pre-record and get that thing set up, because we don't want people to have a bad experience with that. What were you about to say, Chandler?
No, so Fort Worth is run by AT&T, and for whatever reason, you would think with a city of, however many millions of people that we would have access like to fiber. So we didn't. So we had to pay, I think we paid like $3,000 to get a direct line from AT&T's main spot to our church so that we could have fiber internet. And then obviously we had to pay for upgrades and ubiquities and all that stuff just so we could actually have high quality, and we weren't having buffering, because if we had more than 3 people on our Wi-Fi before that, I mean, we literally would shut down the live stream. And so, but we realized, okay, we've got to make the investment. And so, I mean, I forget how much we paid, we had to pay basically to dig up and put the line in, and then plus however much insane we pay a month just to have fiber to our church. But yeah, I would agree with that. If you don't have the internet structure, I would say it's better to record your first service and then try to upload it at a different time. But I just wanted to just kind of echo, like, our church was in the same spot when I came here on staff in 2-3 years ago. I mean, we had Black Magic, and we were like 35 down and 35 up, and it was just, I was like, this looks terrible. It sounded terrible.
I remember.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you came, we did an event.
Yeah,
and I was like, can you please help? Can you please help? And then from there we got the internet and got, I mean, I honestly, and I'll just say this on, just for transparency for our church. Our church is, we probably on a Sunday 600 to 800, so we're not a massive church, but we spent that much money on internet, and we probably spent $50,000 on cameras and lenses and different stuff. So it's because it was a value to us and our church on not just live streaming, but capturing the content to be able to communicate it later. And so we decided to make that call, and it wasn't an easy sell to our elders and to some of our church, but we had that, we knew we wanted to be able to reach people. And so we decided to make that call and put that in place. So anyways, keep going.
Yeah. Well, that was actually one of my next points that I wanted to talk about was leadership, getting your leaders to sign off on what you need. And so I had and I'm always going to talk from my experiences. Okay. I don't want to, go off tangent and do something that I've never talked about or done before. But in our experience, we had a pastor who was so passionate about being online, and he wanted to be just top notch. Right. And as the creative pastor, and here, I'm going to tell you something on that side too, on the creative pastor, right? As the creative pastor, I looked at it and going, okay, I understand like the creative side. At the time, I have no idea how to make this happen. Like technology, I need my guy over here to come and do it because he knows what he's talking about. Right. And so we sat down and I said, what do we need? What do we need to make this happen? And he explains it all to me. And I'm like, all right, so how much is that going to cost? And the biggest budget I've ever seen come across my table. And I'm like, that's crazy. There's no way he's going to sign off on this. And I learned something very valuable in this lesson. When I brought that to my associate pastor, I always take it to him first, let him kind of help me make it happen. Right. and help me understand the way we need to communicate. When I brought it to him at first, I started off negative. I started off with, I know this is going to cost a lot. I know how hard this is going to be. This is, and I just was like pouring on this negativity of, this probably isn't going to happen. The budget's huge. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And I approached him in that way. And I remember he looked at me and he goes, Julian, you need to stop. Okay, listen, you will never be a good salesman by telling me how it's going to be so expensive. It's going to be so hard. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. He goes, just stop. Like you're scared that they're going to tell you no. And at this point, the answer is going to be no because of the way that you presented it to me. The way you need to present it to me, to our pastor especially, is not going to be how hard it's going to be, how much it's going to cost. Be like, hey, listen, here's the value that our online service is going to bring. This is what we're going to be able to do. And he helped me explain the value of what we're going to be able to do for our church, for the online presence, and how it's going to help us grow. Because most pastors, is that going to help us grow? Is that going to be beneficial to us as a church, as an organization? And so I had to focus on the good and the positive of why this budget is so big. Yes, I understand it's a big budget, and this is why. It's going to help us reach more people. We're going to look like we're doing things pro. We're going to, and I just went through this whole list of all the positivity of how it's going to be life-changing for us. And when I brought this ginormous budget to our pastor, he listened to me the whole time. He asked maybe 3 questions and he goes, okay. He's like, this is the biggest budget I've ever signed for this kind of stuff. And I thought planting the church was a big budget. Like that cost us a lot of money, but this is like 20 times more than that, And he looked at me and he goes, okay, I trust you. If you believe this is going to happen, then let's make it happen. Now, that was my experience. Now, I get not all pastors are going to be the same way and understand and get that. But what I've done and I've learned with anybody that I bring a budget to, it's always about how is this going to affect our organization in the long run. I don't want immediate satisfaction, right? Most pastors, well, they might, but for me, I look at it and I go, I don't want immediate satisfaction. I want a long-lasting satisfaction. I want something that's going to last us over the ages, for a long time. Technology changes really fast. Yes, but we're going to get the best stuff. We're going to buy it once and buy it right. That's one of the things that I preach to every single pastor that I ever had contact with. Listen, I know you want to save money. I get it. And I totally get it. This is the church's funds. People are tithing. We gotta pay our bills. But man, if we buy it once, we're not going to have to buy it again for a long time. We don't have to jerry rig everything and hope that it works this weekend. Let's buy it once and let's buy it right. And when you help them understand that, the budgets and everything that you do is just going to be a completely different kind of conversation, because they're going to understand, and you're coming to them from a professional world. And now that I'm in the business world, and that's what I do now, I understand the business side of things way more now. When I was in church, I'll be honest with you, I had no clue. Like I was like, yeah, I get it. Now I'm like, I hit a brick wall, basically. I went into the business world and I hit a brick wall, and I was stunned by the way that we communicate out in this world. And now I'm like, if I would have just learned this, 15, 16 years ago, I would have been able to make a huge and bigger difference in my church, because it's all about the way that I communicate and how I present things to my leaders. And so if that's something that you're dealing with, man, I would love to help you shape that and figure that out for your pastor. And most pastors, I would say 90%, maybe 95% of pastors love to say no to big budgets that have to do with technology. But they still want the results of elevation, right? They want elevation, but they have preschool budgets, and it's just not possible. We can't do that. So helping shape that conversation and make it happen is super important. Does everybody understand copyright and licensing, and when it comes to your online and YouTube? Okay. Just want to make sure. One of the biggest things that I see churches complain about, especially with our clients, they'll email us and they'll say, hey, our video was taken down. I don't understand what happened. I'm like, well, do you have all the right stuff in place that you can, did you make sure that you put all the copyright stuff in there? Did you do your due diligence? Do you have your CCLI? Like all that important stuff. And a lot of times they go, well, they took it down. We didn't do anything wrong. I'm like, you streamed music that doesn't belong to you. That's what happened. So of course they took it down. And so if that's something you ever deal with, man, just make sure you understand copyrights and licensing. Promotion and outreach, that I'm a marketing guy now. I mean, I focus a lot on that when it comes to businesses and churches, but I think I could have done a way better job as a pastor at this. We focus so heavily on the inside of our church where we didn't focus much on the outside of our church. And we thought making flyers and having people, hand them out made all the difference in the world. But what I've learned is your promotion and how you're communicating who you guys are and what you do, man, your online presence, like I said earlier, is your front door for people. And so if you're putting your best foot forward in everything that you're doing and you create that online presence for them, that's going to make all the difference in the world, because they're going to go to your service and be like, okay, this place looks cool. I think I'm going to come visit. And when I go to an online service that, a lot of clients who reach out to us who want to work with us, the first thing I do is go to their online and see what their services look like. And I can get a sense of who they are based off of their online presence. And so your online presence should represent everything about you as a church. And they should be able to understand what kind of church you are from just your online presence. And so that's why I say it's a promotional piece for your church. And we need to treat it as that at all times. It's not just an opportunity for people to watch online and get engagement, but it's also a way to promote our church and let people get a glimpse of what we're all about. Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff is great, but let's be real, those are like the absolute best moments and highlights of our church. And as much as I love them, I also hate them at the same time, because we don't tell the whole story through our Instagram most of the time if we're not doing an incredible job at it. So your online presence, when people watch it, they want to watch the whole thing and see what it's like. What is your pastor like? What does he communicate like? What do you have to offer me? What kind of value are you bringing me as the consumer, right? And that's why we always talked about, let's make sure that we have something in place, clickable links that are going to help them get in touch with the church. You have a question, ask the question. You have a prayer request, let's make a prayer request. And then give them all the resources right there underneath where they're watching, whether that's YouTube or church online, wherever you're at. And then, here's another big one. I love doing this. I find all of our online attendees. And so what we've done is we've created documents that capture people's information. So their names, their emails, as much as we can, we want to capture information from people that are online. And what I do is I love feedback and I love to learn from data. And data is probably one of the most important things to me, because I'm able to learn and grow from data. And so we capture their info, and we always will send out online surveys to help us to learn what we could do better. And so now I take a lot of it with a grain of salt, because people are funny in that way. But I do want to hear what they have to say. What was your experience with us online? What could we do better? How could we serve you more? What's something you wish we had? We have all these questions that we want to be asking people for our online presence, so that we can continue to learn from the data and grow from it. So that's something I would love to do and help you with that as well, because it's probably one of the most valuable tools that we do for churches, is help them create this so that they can learn from their data and grow. Any questions so far? Anything that you're like, okay, what about this?
So the way you've talked about it, it feels like you're using some kind of platform where you can get that information, which is not YouTube, right? Like YouTube, nobody has to log in, nobody has to get the information. So what do you feel about using YouTube versus using something within your site? Obviously, YouTube's a massive search engine, so that's helpful. But what do you think? What's more valuable?
So there's the free way. Here's the free way. If they don't have, if you're on YouTube and they don't have a YouTube channel and stuff like that, what I do is, hey, let us know where you're coming from. What's your name? Like I gather information like that, because there is no way like that. But what we do is we create a link that has a survey. And so we invite everybody. The low hanging fruit is just putting that link in and say, hey, we would love to get your feedback on our online service. And I put it in the comments and even post it. And so it keeps it right at the very front. And I'm telling you, people love to fill out surveys. I don't know what it is, but people love to tell you what they think. And so, and I'll take it. And it's a great opportunity just for them to get something off their chest without even having to email our pastor. Cause that's always what happens. They find the pastor's email and then he gets it. And then he comes to me and he's like, hey, so this person emailed us and is complaining about this and that. And I'm like, ugh. So what we're doing is we're being the middleman. We're stopping that from happening by giving them an opportunity to complain or give their congratulations on this is awesome, whatever. But we also set it up where we ask specific questions, because things that we want to learn, and then we leave one spot at the very end that just says any comments that you have. And so that's the low hanging fruit. If you're super great at marketing and capturing people's information, that's where it gets a little fun, because we can utilize some online tools that you pay for, and that helps you gather information from people. What's something. Okay, so for instance, here's a great example. When you go to a new church, most new churches have new visitor bags. Okay. And so what we do online is say, hey, we would love to send you a new visitor bag. Now it costs a little money, right? Because you're going to have to send it somehow, figure out what the process is for that. And so in person, it's a coffee mug and a card and, whatever you put in that, it's a little bag. But online, we want to do something digital. I would say keep it digital as much as possible. So whether that's like a $5 gift card to Starbucks or whatever you decide on, make it digital and say, hey, we would love to send you a free gift just for attending and being here for the first time today. All you have to do is fill out your information here. Boom, you're capturing information right there. And so it's not, a lot of people, I've had pastors tell me, well, that's manipulative. You're giving them something to get something. I'm like, yeah, I am 100%, because I want to capture their information, because the more information we can capture, the more we can communicate and learn from the data. And so, I mean, that's probably the lowest hanging fruit, is just creating some type of online first time guest, whatever, and then creating the survey that they can fill out directly from wherever they're watching from. Anything else?
What do you think about countdowns?
It depends on what kind of countdown it is, because I think if it's just a countdown with music, 99% of people aren't going to watch it and they don't care. So they're only going to get on when it happens. So in my mind, it's pointless to do a countdown that's just numbers and music. If you're going to do a countdown, make it valuable. That's where you put your, for your online attendance, that's where you put the what's going on in our church, and make it not just slides. Slides are the easy way to go, and it's fine. But it's not going to make as much of a difference if you produce something that's like, hey, welcome to online. Here's a couple things that are going on. We're so glad you're joining us online, and you're talking to them directly and making it very personal for who's watching on the other side. And so I always suggest keep it as personal as possible, talking to who's online. Don't talk to them like they're in the house. Talk to them like they're on the other side of the computer, they're on the phone. Whether you're on your computer or you're on your phone, we would love to hear from you. Fill out a survey, fill out a prayer request that you're engaging them, you're talking to them. Hey, did you know that we meet every week? That's when you get to opportunity to reach them. So if you're going to do something pre-service, that's what I would put my money into. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Any like ticks, things that you're just like, ugh, this is so annoying and so hard and it bothers me so much, and I would love to just chat about it.
I was just going to ask, what are your opinions on like live streaming worship?
That's a good one. I love. Earlier, I think it was Lindsay who said that you take the worship off the live stream. Great idea. you should definitely do that. If you're not set up for success to have a sound engineer who only focuses on live stream, I would suggest just not even doing it at all. Because you're going to hear the nitty gritty of the singers, the bad notes. You're going to hear just wild things. Oh, we forgot to unmute our pastor and he's talking to somebody. Like,
This is living now.
yeah, I mean, I literally had a pastor, or at one time it wasn't me, but we had someone who was running it and they forgot to unmute our pastor for real. And we got a message from somebody saying, hey, I think you need to mute the pastor. We can hear him talking. And he just said somebody was super annoying, right? And it was terrifying. Like, that was the most terrifying moment of my life. Like, we're all gonna die. Like, this is it. Pastor's firing us all. We're all getting fired. So it's a very, very dangerous thing to have, because you want to put your best foot forward. And so if you can't have a separate soundboard, I just wouldn't even do it unless your sound engineer is like the best in the world and he really knows how to have one of his sends be the online and he can mix it in his headphones and he does really, really good at it. Unless you're at that level with your staff, man, just don't even do worship. Just pick it up from right after worship when they start praying. Like, that's what I would suggest. There's definitely there's services out there that I know of that they will do it for you digitally. And so there's opportunity for that. I've personally never used them, so I don't know how well they work, but I know there's opportunity for that. So if you can avoid it. If you can do it really well, do it well. Any other questions? Any other things that are just hard for you? You want to understand more?
Right. Yeah, I think I'm struggling with balancing inward focus and outward focus, right? Like, because when I think about the people who watch our service in real time online, it's typically people who they couldn't make it to church that Sunday, whatever. And so like they would feel like they lost something if they didn't get worship. But when I think about like watching on demand, it's like the rando who like at 2:00 in the morning is like, I need God in my life, and they search and they find him. And so I guess I'm trying to find the balance, because like when you say don't do worship, it feels like in some way it's not the experience, but you're inviting people into the experience in the building. So how do you balance the internal perspective versus the external perspective?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that's super valid, because you're 100% right. Most of the people watching live are going to be your actual people, like people who go to your church. And that's where you have to just decide on who you guys are as a church. Are we focused more on the outsider, or are we focused more on the insider? And there is going to be a balance in some churches. I think there's in all reality, nobody has a perfect balance, and I wish we could. And so if you can make worship sound decent, man, go for it. What I'm saying, and at this point now, is if that's your case and you want to make sure that you don't lose your people who go to your church, for sure have worship. Do your very best. Put money into making it nice, as nice as you can, because most of the time it just doesn't sound very good. But at the same time, the video that stays and people can replay, I would do just like Lindsay does and cut it and have it just go from the message on, because that's the most important part for people who are they want to hear the message. And so a lot of our guys for YouTube especially, they'll just go and they'll just afterwards scrub it so that it just starts from there. The whole video's there still, but it just starts from the message part. And so, but I'm 100% with you. Like, I don't want to disengage people who aren't there. They love the worship. They love the people who are on the worship team. So that's where you just have to go. We have to spend a little bit more money and get one more fee to a different soundboard so that we can do it really well. I remember the first time I ever did that. I was at Timberlake Church in Redmond, Washington, and our online was awful. And our pastor was like, I just want to cut online altogether. And I'm like, no, listen. If we can just get one soundboard, and I have the ability to run another feed to the back room. If we can just get one more soundboard and make it happen, and we can send everything from there. So I literally bought this, I forget what it was. I bought this cheap little digital soundboard. Man, what brand was it? It was blue. I remember that. But I bought the cheap little soundboard. It was digital, and we were able to snake it in. And I had one guy designated every week who just mixed our online service. It made all the difference in the world. It didn't cost that much money. I think the soundboard was $6,000, and that was our solution. And it was that easy. That, and then his laptop that he would connect to it. Super simple. So if it is valuable to you, just be willing to spend the money, really. And I agree with you 100%. So yeah. Any other thoughts?
This is good. Good.
Awesome.
I was gonna say, maybe if you have, I know we got a few more minutes left. Is there any? I know we have quite a few people that said they're using Resi. I think my church uses Resi. We use Canon just because Canon has a nonprofit program that allows you to finance their cameras. So we were able to finance all of our cameras over 3 years for 0% financing. So basically, we basically took that money, that 30 or 30, 40, 50, whatever it was, and spread it over 3 years. So that's why we went Canon. I'm definitely more of a Sony guy now. But any maybe other software gear, platform type things that, I know there's a lot out there, but anything that you maybe recommend or you're familiar with?
Yeah, I mean, we've always been on Resi, so I mean, I don't even think I know a different world when it comes to that. I didn't do too much. But as far as like cameras go, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things that people make the biggest mistakes with. They want to either go the cheapest route, or it's so expensive that there's no way they can ever afford it, right? And they just put themselves in debt. And so you really don't need to do that. I would just suggest, like, do your due diligence and really figure out, okay, what kind of system, because really a lot of it depends on what kind of system you have. Do you have an old system? Do you have a new one? Like, you have to look at your place as a whole and what that looks like. And so I mean, there's too many cameras to even count. I am a Sony broadcast guy. That's kind of where I think it's the easiest and most user friendly personally. So we actually have a few, like we have one church that they run everything. It's pretty funny, and it works really well. But they run 3 cameras, and they're all on the FX7, and it works great. I mean, does incredible. And it was not that expensive. It was very affordable, and everything's ran HD. And it wasn't hard at all. And then we have another one who has FX9s, and so I always push Sony as much as possible, just because how cheap it is, but it still puts out good quality. The church I worked at in New Mexico, we bought all Blackmagic. I mean, everything was Blackmagic for a long time. I think they went away from it though, so it was great for our productions that we would put together. That was pre-production and everything that we would film and edit beforehand, but live it just wasn't as good. Just a little less user friendly for volunteers who have no idea what they're doing.
That's exactly what we do. Our Blackmagics are now our pre-production cameras.
Julian, you mentioned like a lot of the interaction as a host, like what you want them to do. Do you guys have training materials that we could use, like if we're trying to train online host, or at least best practices that we could steal?
Yeah, for sure. I would have to just do a little quick look. It's been a while since I've created one of those, but I do have a hard drive that has everything that I've ever done on it, so I can definitely give you something. But yeah, we have prompts. And so the way I like to work with hosts is I give them prompts. So beginning of service, middle of service, end of service, what to do if people ask this kind of question. And I kind of give it a broad view of what type of question it is, because you never know what people will ask. So if it's a broadcasting question, I have answers for them. So always troubleshooting. So if the internet's, it's skipping, it's pausing, the sound's not working, anything like that, there's always prompts of the type of answers we want to give them and help them troubleshoot their own equipment. And then if it's something that's like this, we get this a lot, actually. This is probably one of the biggest things that our host had a hard time with. When someone starts really like giving personal information of stuff that's going on inside of their life that maybe they shouldn't broadcast to the entire world. For instance, this is one of the hardest ones we ever dealt with, but this guy was on there and he just goes, I just don't know if I want to live anymore. I want to kill myself. Like, it just went like really dark, really fast. And our host was tripping. She had no idea what to do. She's like, what am I supposed to do? And so that was a learning for us. We had to really learn what to do. So we have prompts for that kind of stuff now as well. And so it's important that your people understand, like, okay, you are, in a way, you're going to be a pastor to these people. You're going to be communicating to them and helping them understand what's happening, and you got to be ready to answer questions. And that's why I always suggest for situations like that we have some type of online thing for them to fill out so that we can reach out to them and get in touch with them right away as fast as possible, and get our response team. Our church, we had deacons that were in charge of this 24-hour phone that we had at the church. And so the deacons just rotated who held the phone. And so anytime we got a comment like that, I would immediately put the number of that phone number in there and say, please call us right now. And the deacons were ready to take the call and go as soon as they needed to. And so we've had multiple times where literally deacons were getting phone calls during service from that line, and they would have to go to someone's house, go to the hospital, go to a car accident, just different things like that. And it's super helpful, and helped us be really diligent and not having the host having to do publicly, well, here's what you should do about suicide prevention. Like, it's better if we can just get on the phone with them right away and or get in contact with them as fast as possible. So yeah, there's lots of prompts that we can give you.
Yeah, I'll get those prompts from Julian, and then I will put them in the Slack, and then I'll also attach them to the video within Teachable, so that way they're attached to this call. So when you go back, whether it's on Slack or to the video, it'll be right there. I'll probably say give me till first of next week, and I'll get those to you.
That was a great question. I really appreciate you asking that.
That was a great question. All right, anybody else? We're a little over time. I want to respect everybody's time. So if you need to roll out. If you want to stay and ask any more questions, you can. But just I want to, Julian's here. So if you have any more questions, I want to make sure you guys get the questions that you have. This has been a great conversation. I've actually learned a lot. I actually just text my worship pastor. I was like, hey, can we meet about YouTube and live stream this week? Because we've got some things that we need to update. So this has been, I'm truly grateful and thankful for Julian. This has been seriously super helpful. Ivan, you got anything? You guys have anything? Can't hear you.
You're muted.
Oh my. Hello. Well, just something that occurs to me. Our audio engineer, we have a dedicated audio engineer. He uses what is it called? I think it's called LV1, I think.
Yep.
And it's completely software audio mixer. He's really happy with it. We actually moved over to it
That's really good.
for the main. I don't know if anybody wants to consider that, but that's actually we're going to move to that, as like every audio mixer at our church is going to be a software based on a computer instead of an actual hardware.
Crazy. That's cool. I like that.
Love
yeah.
it.
So there's a church here locally. I forget. I got to ask my contact over there, but they run everything off of iPads. So every musician, every singer, and then their online audio guy, they all run off of iPads. So their in-ears are all their own mixes on their own iPad, and then their online engineer, all iPad. Yeah. So I can't remember exactly what software it was, but it's been a while.
That's cool. Anybody else?
Ivan, what church are you guys at?
Vino Nuevo.
Nice.
They're down in El Paso, and they've got a couple campuses in Texas and a couple in Mexico.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah,
El Paso, Texas. I've driven through there a couple times.
about yeah.
Out for lunch once.
Julian, how good is your Spanish?
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien. Vamos a presentar un teatro en 10 minutos. Venga, por favor. That's what I learned when I was on a missions trip. That's it. All I got. My parents decided not to teach their kids Spanish, so they didn't love me, I guess.
Actually, when I took this job, I had to learn where all the little, you know, how some of the letters wear hats in Spanish.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had to learn where all of them go. Oh my gosh, it's been an experience.
But I am trying to learn right now. I really want to learn. So that's what I do on the side right now a little bit. But I'm not confident enough.
I love it. All right. Anybody else? Casey, Lindsay? If not, we're gonna shut her
I just
down.
had a quick question, like third-party streaming platforms. Any suggestions for distribution or anything like that? There's a lot out there, and it's a little overwhelming to kind of figure out what a good direction for church platforms.
Okay, yeah. Do you mind if we put that in the Slack channel as well? I actually have a bunch that I was putting together. And I have one resource that I use, and he's the trusted resource, and he's been so good to me. And I want to make sure that I don't get any names wrong. Obviously, you know, everybody uses online church, but I think that's what's called online church. But I like to veer away from that. So for me, my biggest goal was it's important for me to host from our website. I want to get as much traffic to our website as possible. And especially if you can do that for your online presence. And a lot of times when you do the third-party ones, you have to go to their website. And so I'll give Chandler all the details for those, but to be able to host it within your website, on your website, that's like my number one goal for everybody. So yeah, we'll give you lots of those as well.